The roar of the crowd, the clash of steel, a warrior standing alone in the arena. When we hear the word gladiator, we imagine brutal fights to the death, slaves forced to kill for entertainment. But how much of that image is true, and how much is Hollywood myth? Gladiatorial games were a central part of life in ancient Rome. The most famous arena, the Colosseum in Rome, could hold up to 50,000 spectators. The games began in 264 BCE, originally as funeral rituals to honor the dead. Over time, they became massive public spectacles funded by emperors to gain popularity and political support. The first myth is that all gladiators were slaves. In reality, while many were slaves or prisoners of war, not all of them were. Some were volunteers called auctorati, free men who signed contracts to fight for money, fame, and the chance of glory. Gladiators trained in special schools known as ludi, run by a manager called a lanista. They were highly trained athletes. Doctors monitored their diets, and trainers refined their combat techniques daily. Different types of gladiators fought in carefully designed matchups. The murmillo carried a large shield and sword. The retiarius fought with a net and trident. The secutor, with his smooth helmet, was built to chase down the net fighter. These matchups were not random chaos. They were structured, strategic, and designed to entertain, almost like modern sports competitions. Another common myth is that every fight ended in death. The reality is more complex. Gladiators were expensive to buy, train, and maintain. Killing them too frequently made little financial sense. While some matches were indeed fatal, many ended when one fighter was injured or surrendered. The crowd could influence the outcome, but the final decision often rested with the sponsor of the games, usually a Roman official or even the emperor. Contrary to popular belief, the famous thumbs down gesture may not have clearly meant death, and historians still debate its true meaning. Survival rates were higher than Hollywood often suggests. Gladiatorial games were not just entertainment. They were political tools. Emperors used them to gain public favor and maintain control. The phrase bread and circuses described how food and spectacles kept the population satisfied and distracted from political problems. One emperor, Commodus, even entered the arena himself. However, unlike dramatic movie portrayals, his fights were carefully staged to ensure his victory. The arena also hosted executions and animal hunts, known as venations, adding to the spectacle and intensity of the events. Another myth suggests that gladiators were universally hated and lived only miserable lives. In reality, successful gladiators were celebrities. Graffiti found in cities like Pompeii shows fans praising their favorite fighters. Women admired them, and children idolized them. Victorious gladiators could earn prize money and, after many successes, win their freedom. They were awarded a wooden sword called a rudis, symbolizing release from combat. Some retired with wealth and recognition. Gladiatorial games continued for more than 600 years. However, as the Roman Empire changed and Christianity spread, public attitudes began to shift. Moral concerns grew stronger, and support for the violent spectacles declined. In 404 CE, the games were officially abolished, and the arenas that once thundered with cheers gradually fell silent. Gladiators were not simply helpless victims, nor were they invincible heroes. They were athletes, entertainers, political instruments, and complex human beings living within a society that thrived on spectacle. The myth is brutal, but the reality is far more fascinating.